Hi guys, and today's movie that you don't hate.
So before last couple of years ago, the movie Fantastic Four came out. The horrible reviewed.
Fantastic
Oh my God, that was so bad. There was the original two that started it back in 2005, and it starred Ian Grofeld. I think I said his name right.
I'm glad you said that one because I could not figure out how to say his
Michael
name.
Chiklis, Jessica Alba, and Cap himself before Hydra. Chris Evans. So they did the Fantastic Four back in 2005, and it's got a lot of crap, man. I mean, they've gotten so much heat for it. That one and the Rise of the Silver Surfer, which actually I thought was pretty good. I liked it anyway. So this week we're going to have this one thanks to our good buddy Chemo Callie, who suggested this title, and this one is just for you. If you have never seen You Don't Hate, how we're going to do it, we're going to have 5 categories. We're going to have the plot, the acting / directing, special effects, action sequences, and the characters. We're going to go and give each one a score, whether you like it or you hate it. At the end of the show, we'll tally up and see whether or not you really don't hate this movie.
Because you don't.
Well, we'll see. Terrence! The clock starts, or clock timer, the chingadera, the scoreboard.
The thing with the number.
The thing with the number starts now. All right, so the first one is the plot.
Okay.
Now, a lot of this, like I said before, got a lot of heat partially because of the plot. Personally, I think that the plot was all right, considering that it was basically an origin story anyway.
Right.
So you really couldn't expect too much out of it as far as, this really big, plot-oriented title that's going to give you all of this and that. It's just an origin story.
I mean, it was the first movie, and back then in that particular era of superhero movies, every movie had to have an origin movie. It was the first time you were meeting the characters. They had to tell you how they did. And at the beginning of this movie, telling you the origin story to update it to where it was from the comic books with the negative zone, there was no way back in early 2000 we were going to explain the negative zone to anybody. So saying that they were basically astronauts in the sense, going out to space, getting hit in cosmic rays, basically the same story from the comic book. I mean, they pretty much nailed it. I mean, if you want to talk about how it evolved over time, but the beginning and setting up of this movie, they actually nailed it. I mean, you establish your villain in Doom. You got the characters and everybody getting their powers and moving forward and how they're going to be superheroes. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the plot with this movie.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. I mean, the whole thing with them really trying to figure out how to use their powers, and now some could say that they're using their powers for the dumbest things instead of actually finding out.
I mean, think about their powers. I can turn invisible. I can stretch really, really far, which that dude should have done porn. Penis is calling. That's all I can think about with this movie. And I was like, I would have not have been a superhero.
There would have been a reason why he was called Mr. Fantastic. So, but it wasn't. In all honesty, I really don't think that it was too bad. It was some parts were pretty funny, and like I said, the whole concept was basically origins. Now, this is a time when X-Men was coming out, and this is when X-Men 2, I think. X2 had just come out.
X2 just come out. Spider-Man 2 had come out.
So it was Marvel was trying to capitalize on their properties as far as
before we go into a little bit far, as a setup to this film is a lot of people didn't like this film because it piggybacked two of the greatest superhero films at that particular time in this genre. Spider-Man 2 was at that time was one of the greatest superhero films, especially a Spider-Man film. And then when X2 came out, that basically took the place of Spider-Man 2. So if you have these two great films, and then obviously how well X-Men 1 did, if you have these great films that are coming out, the bar was set so high, almost in the sense of how high the bar got set with Civil War, and then
but they reached that though.
Yeah, I mean, but the bar got set so high with Civil War, and like I said with X2 and with Spider-Man 2, that for a film not to achieve that, it created some disappointment in the fans. So, and I think that's where it gets a lot of the hate for in this film, is that it wasn't as great as X-Men 2. And I don't think it was set up to be better than that particular film. That other film had a specific tone. It was a more serious tone. They were dealing with a lot of things that this film or these set of characters weren't set up to be. They were set up to be a family. They were set up to be more comical. Their powers are ridiculous, to be honest. But that's what this film was, and people were looking for something to either do better or be as such as those, and that's where the disappointment came from. But back to the plot.
So let me ask you this: had Fantastic Four come out before X-Men and Spider-Man, how do you think it would have been?
We would have been talking about how great Fantastic Four was, especially when you look at the Roger Corman one that was gonna be released like the year before. Oh my God!
You thought Superman Quest for Peace was bad.
It's problem time.
Yeah,
That was
my
horrible.
God. And I actually saw some of it. I couldn't sit through the whole thing. I saw some of it on
It's
YouTube.
on YouTube. Watch it if you dare.
And man, it was bad. But it's a victim of the time that it came out.
I agree 100%. So the point goes to
For a plot, it definitely goes to Fantastic.
like. Ding, ding. All right, so the next one is the acting. This is yeah, it was pretty bad. Let's just be honest. Jessica Alba, you are one of the most beautiful women on the planet.
Oh my God.
But if I wanted to see you blonde, it would be in Sin City. This is not something that I wanted to see, you know, the type of role that you should have been in. I mean, it's so funny how we could say whitewashing, but they put a Latina.
We brownwashed it.
They brownwashed it on this one. But you know, she struggled a little bit. I'm not too sure of whether or not it was entirely. I can't really blame it all on her.
Was this
it's
her
probably the
biggest
director
role since Idle Hands?
She was gorgeous in Idle Hands. Why'd you have to bring that up? Damn it. Anyway,
That's why she gets my point.
she gets like on that one. So I don't, like I said, I don't know if she really understood the character. Maybe, I don't know if she read the comics or if the director really didn't, you know, I guess he lost the dare, or I don't know. But from that standpoint, I really don't think that she, like I said, really grasped the character. Jan Grofeld,
I think he did a good job.
he did a decent job as Reed. I mean, he was okay. I think that he was a little too serious at times, you know. I think he lightened up in part 2, but you know,
I think that's how they wrote the particular character. They wanted him to be more like in relation to the comic books with Fantastic Four, is that Reed Richards' character is a father figure. I mean, he's him and Sue are, that's mom and dad, and you know the brothers are the thing, and Johnny, Ben and Johnny are basically the little brothers and stuff. And I mean, that's the dynamic of their family. That's how they're set up. So I think they really gave him the, like, hey, you have to be serious. You're a scientist. And then they did the little overtones about, you know, him being, you know, down about not having Sue and losing her to Doom, which was something. But anyway, as far as the acting goes, I think he did what he was supposed to do. That's just the way they wrote the character, unfortunately. They didn't give him a lot of, outside of him stretching, a lot of light points to his character. So I don't think he did a bad job with that. But if we move on to
Michael Chiklis. Michael Chiklis, you know, he, if you've never seen Michael Chiklis before The Shield, he was great.
He was great.
He's amazing in The Shield. But if you ever want to see Michael Chiklis, like, you know, get kind of raw, you need to see him play John Belushi on Wired. He was so freaking good in that movie, but you guys definitely got to check that out. But
what he did in this film,
I don't know, the way, I don't think he was really comfortable in his suit, in all honesty. I don't know, he reminded me a lot of Raphael on Turtles in the 91. He reminded me of Raphael.
Coat, but the thing has done the trench coat thing too. Yeah. So the trench coat and the gruff voice.
Yeah, he kind of reminded me of Raphael.
Kind of like he was the storm cloud over everything.
Yeah, and I feel you kind of feel bad for him actually. But as far as the acting, you know, he did, like you said, he did what he could, you know, with given the circumstances. So
I would actually say some of the writing is at fault in this particular film.
Absolutely, and some of the directing too is very questionable. Is highly questionable on this. The actors could only do, you know, so much as far as what, you know, given the direction that they're given. So you know, the director has to take some fault for that. Unfortunately, I can't remember the guy's name, so my bad. All right, so last but not least, you think he's on fire now?
Yeah.
As Captain America, he was literally on fire in this one, and that was Chris Evans. And to be honest with you,
the standout of the movie.
The standout of the freaking movie, and I think that he was far from Captain America. But
Except that's all I could hear when I rewatched it today.
he was freaking, but he actually did a pretty decent job. I mean, he like
was
I said,
totally Johnny Storm.
yeah,
and it
he
like,
was Johnny Storm.
from his relationship with Ben Grimm, and like how he's always making fun of him and them going back and forth, and even how they portray, like how we'll get to characters in a second, but their dynamic together was exactly like the comic. And Chris Evans he went a long way to actually be Johnny Storm in this. The brashness, the overconfidence, and the jokiness, that was all Johnny Storm. And Chris Evans, he was Johnny Storm. It was like, if they could have rebooted Fantastic Four before, not that I don't want him to be Captain America, but if they could have rebooted Fantastic Four and still kept him as Johnny Storm, it would have been perfect, because he was a perfect casting for Johnny Storm.
Oh yeah.
But I still want him as Captain America.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But not Hydra, Captain America, right? All right,
The pain.
so acting / directing goes to.
It was a hate, man.
Hate, man. This is awful.
There was two.
There
Like
were scenes
before we said,
besides Chris Evans, just scenes I just couldn't stomach.
and like we've said before in other ones, where like we don't want to let one bad acting performance take the play. I mean, take over the fact how everybody else did. He was the only good one, and the majority of the acting really wasn't that great. So, like I said, partly to blame on directing, partly to blame on what they were given to act with the script, but it just wasn't good. So,
Well, and talent. So special effects.
Her talent is looking hot. That's all. Her,
That's awful.
Paula Patton,
That's awful.
their talent is looking hot.
That's awful.
Look hot, I'm good. I'll watch whatever you in. I'll watch The Do-Over.
I'm trying to think of a movie with Jessica Alba where she was just good, like acting really good. Can you think of?
It's just the way she acts, man. Because even in Sin City, she's just the same type. Her delivery. There was one scene in this particular film where she was going back and forth with, because I'm not gonna say his name, with Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic.
Where she Gruffled.
That guy. So when she was upset about when he was saying that, about her having self-control, and she was really into it, like you really felt like she meant what she was saying. It was like, oh my God, if you could act the rest of the movie in this tone, perfect. I mean, don't be mad, but like how she delivered her lines in that was perfect. Everything else is
there was more substance to what she was saying.
Everything else was like, I'm just reading what I remembered from the script. It's like she felt like she was in that moment. I was like, she just could have done that the whole movie.
Jessica, you have potential, honey. You have potential. I know, you have, 15, 20 years of potential. But you okay, I'll be quiet. All right, so.
Machete.
Special effects. This movie has a lot of special effects. And it's actually not too bad. It's actually pretty good.
2005, man.
I mean, for it being back then, I mean, it was pretty good. The whole thing with the in space when they actually get their powers, to some of the special visuals when they're actually getting their flame on and doing their stretches, and the invisibility. Invisibility.
I mean, I was really when I was looking at it today, I was really looking at the special effects because I knew we were going to talk about it. And the only thing that I really found was a little off. Some of the extreme stretchiness with Mr. Fantastic was a little off. I mean, for 2005 standards, it was on. But for now standards, they're like, yeah. But that, and then now looking at the practicalness of the rubber suit for Michael Chiklis, that kind of, it didn't age well with time. But back then, I think it was a great thing for what it was back then. It was a practical suit. They didn't have to CGI, because if they trust me, with their CGI, they would have looked horrible. So it was a practical suit, looked like rock.
I don't think so. I think that if you would have gone, well, motion capture really wasn't that big of a thing back then. So it's kind of, I mean, they had to do what they had to do.
They would have had the motion capture. They would have had the CGI in every scene.
But he looked like it was.
No, he looked like
it was plastic, or like it was rubber. It didn't look like.
Have you seen the thing in comic books?
Yes, but it doesn't. No, it
he's
looks like
an orange rock. But he's an orange rock.
But it didn't look like, when you look at it, it looks like it's a rubber suit. It doesn't look like it's rock.
Okay, so let me ask you, just as and I don't mean to sidetrack for a little bit. All right, do you prefer the '90s Turtles or this year's Turtles?
If you take the nostrils out of this year's Turtles, this year's Turtles.
So anyway, as we move on, I didn't have a problem with Michael Chiklis' suit. For 2005, I didn't have a problem. I felt better that it was a practical suit over being CGI. I think CGI would have totally ruined it. I liked it the way it was. And if you read the comics, thing is a big orange rock. It's a big orange rock. How you gonna make that look like a big orange rock in real life without making it look like it's ridiculous?
I think that it hindered his performance. I didn't think he could really put too much out there because of it. That's just my opinion. But overall, the special effects, especially in the at the fight scene at the end and all that, I thought it was pretty good for its time.
Yeah.
So
I thought, yeah.
Who gets it?
It gets like.
Gets like. Ding, ding.
2-1, 2-1, 2-1.
2-1. All right. Action sequences. A lot of action in this movie towards the middle and the end. In the beginning, not so much. The whole thing with Jessica Alba when she does.
I can watch that all day. I can watch that all day.
Why are we picking up Jessica Alba?
You're picking up.
Why am I picking up? I'm sorry, Jessica.
Jessica, I love you.
I love you too. But
whatever movie you come out in, I'll be watching it.
But anyway, all right. So the action sequences, especially when they fight Doctor Doom and all that was actually pretty great. The semi X Games scenes that they had in there were pretty decent. I thought overall, I kind of liked it. I liked it. It was all right.
I was gonna say that it was a little slow at times.
Well, it was slow in the beginning, but once it got to the action, it was pretty good.
Because what I can recall is the bridge scene with Thing when he was up there. Before then, there was how they got their powers, and then there was a big lull, like you said, the X Game things with Johnny when he was snowboarding. But I don't know if I really call that an action scene. It was just kind of like.
What about when he hits that truck?
The truck, that was the bridge scene.
That was the bridge. That was awesome.
Yeah, but that was a big jump into the film. Like there was a lot of slowness after they got their powers.
That's why I said the action scenes when they came out. when they came out,
there was a lot of slowness, and then at that point, that's when the public was like, "Oh yeah, you're cool, you guys." They dubbed them Fantastic Four, and then we went back to some slowness again before we got to the Doom fight. I don't think there was enough action, to be honest. And as a matter of fact, I even looked up some of the reviews that happened in 2000. I even looked to 2005 to see what people thought, and that was the biggest complaint, is that people felt that this movie was boring in points.
Okay, and to a certain degree, yes, but I'm talking about when it took place.
Okay.
I'm just saying when it took place. You're
When it took place, did you see all the action in X-Men and all the action in Spider-Man?
You're not going to get, and that's the exception to the rule, but when you get into Batman Begins, that movie is so freaking slow and boring. I mean,
Batman's slow and boring.
Batman is not slow and boring. I said Batman Begins. Anyway, so.
I love Batman. I just taking.
Oh man, you're a jerk. But anyway, all right. So, man, this is a tough one. Then action sequences.
I want to give it to Hay. I like the Doom fight. I liked the bridge scene. I just don't think it was enough of them. It's up to you. The deciding factor here is up to you. It's up to you.
Action sequences. I'm gonna have to give it to Hate.
Oh! I can only recall. I mean, there's the end fight and then there's a bridge scene. Name me another
one. And it is now tied 2-2.
Close one.
This is a very close one. Now, we could have called on our third member to actually set it apart, but she has not seen it. so that's why I had to make the choice. And this is the deciding factor here.
Okay.
If we really hate this movie.
All right.
It's the characters.
Okay.
Now, the characters themselves, now we're not talking about the acting and all that in it. I mean, it does play into it a little bit, but as far as the characters themselves, I thought that it was really true to comic.
Definitely true. I just went on my love for Chris Evans being Johnny Storm. So, I mean, outside, we already know that he was great. Sue Storm. I mean, she had the relationship with her and Johnny that was realized on screen. They definitely got that right. Her and her relationship with Reed Richards. Reed Richards being super smart, being more the father figure for the teams. Like definitely, Ben Grimm being dowdy and pouty and like, oh, I hate being the thing and stuff like that. They got all that right. What's funny is that this film came out. It actually did pretty well in the theaters and actually greenlit a sequel. This film came out, people had all this stuff about what they didn't like about the characters, what they didn't like about the film. So then they gave us another film in 2014 or 2015?
No, the Silver Surfer actually.
No. I mean like the Fan Four Stick.
Oh, that was awful.
So they gave us that, and then they changed.
2014.
And then they changed the characters completely. And what do we say? It is like, oh, they're not true to the comic books. This one was. This is what we really want. And they showed us what it was like to not have them be this particular way, and we all said that we all said at that point we should be more like the comic books. They gave that to us. That's what these characters were. So definitely the characters were realized on screen. The only one that wasn't, because I know before you guys comment about it, was Doom. Doom was not right. Doom was, I mean, to a certain sense. They did the scar thing on the face and him obsessing about it. That was true to his character, but he was from Latveria, so that was true to the character. But Doom was more about ruling his country and not being a businessman. And then the cosmic rays didn't make his skin turn metal. It was a suit he had built, and he had the mask on to hide the scar, which they put it on too fast, and it burned the rest of his face, and blah, blah. So they took a lot of liberties with Doom. But with that being said, the reasons why they took the liberties with Doom is because that's ridiculous to explain in 2005 in a comic book movie. Now we can do that and we can all accept it because now we're in the age of the comic book movie. We can take these ridiculous, off-the-wall, outlandish backstories. For back then, people that's stupid.
Yeah, I don't think a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy would have done anything.
No, back then that movie would have never been made. Right. That's why it was such a gamble when they made it now. Is because it was too out there. That's why they didn't do magic, because Doom's supposed to have magic, and they didn't do it back then because we weren't ready to accept that in the comic book film. So they had to make changes with that particular character. So I mean, we wouldn't have accepted it back then. Unless you were a hardcore Fantastic Four fan, we'd have been like, this is ridiculous. How does his powers work? They had to do something in a way that we could relate. A ruler of another country fighting this team of superheroes wouldn't have made sense. So they had to make him a businessman. That type of thing. And it's like, why would he build this iron suit? Iron Man hadn't even come out yet. So it doesn't make sense. But so as far as the characters go, I believe they were totally realized on screen, minus what they did to Doom, but I understand why they did that to Doom.
Mm-hmm. Just for it to make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This movie was made for $100 million. Worldwide, it grossed over $330 million.
Do we have a ruling on characters?
Okay. Hold on. So it did modestly well as far as that. So the characters were still, people accepted them back then. I mean, obviously, because they $330 million ain't no joke. So
outside of the negative comments, people loved this movie. So let a sequel.
The point goes to like. And when we tally up the scores here, we got 3-2.
Yeah, close one.
It was a very, very close one.
This was a close one. Last Stand was a blowout. How was that?
I have no idea. So you really don't hate this movie. Now, when you look at the one that Michael B. Jordan was in, mm-hmm. and you actually kind of appreciate this one a little bit more, too,
to be honest with you. I totally appreciate this film now. Totally appreciate this film, because in my head I was like, man, that movie has so many flaws. And then after knowing what I've seen in Fan Four Stick, I refuse to call it Fantastic Four, Fan Four Stick, I watched this movie and I was like, wow, this is a Fantastic Four movie with problems, but it was definitely what we wanted from Fantastic Four. It just had some issues. If those issues had been corrected, it would have been a great Fantastic Four movie. We got garbage recently. We need to go back to this.
So with that being said, you really don't hate this movie.
You don't hate this movie at all.
Special thanks to Mr. Kimo Cali for suggesting this title. If there's any other titles that you'd like for us to talk about and to grade, feel free to leave a comment below. Hit us up on Twitter or Facebook and all that good stuff.
We're everywhere. We're on Tumblr now too.
Terrence, take us home.
Yes, definitely. Make sure you guys comment below. Let me know what you guys felt about this film. If you liked this film, what you didn't like about it. Maybe we didn't cover it. We can go ahead and talk about it below in the comments. Tell me if you like this film, because I find that when we do these videos, I find a lot of people come out and say, hey, I really like that movie, and it's glad to hear somebody else talk about how much they liked it. So I want to hear those stories too, so make sure you put them down below. Also, make sure you subscribe so that way you know when these come out. The schedule with You Don't Hates is a little in flux. We're trying to get it nailed down, so you definitely need to subscribe so you know when a new one comes out.
And like I said before, make sure you let us know some titles that maybe we haven't even thought about.
Yeah, definitely, because if it's a good title, we'll definitely go ahead and do it in our next episode.
All right, for Aspen in the back, I'm Manny.
I'm Terrence.
We'll see you next time.
This was a close one. Last Stand was a blowout. How was that?
I have no idea. And even he likes it.
I will cut that out. Yeah, all right, gone. Maybe not.
No, not here. Swat this mother.
I was gonna swat with your damn Skittles.
I got it.
Oh, you got it?
I got it. Kill it! There you go.
All right.
Oh, when you kill them, you attract more.
Okay,
What do they hear? Screams?
so you really don't. so
Start
you really don't hear this. So you.
All right. And
So you really don't hate this movie.